Well, good morning. Wow. If you're wondering where the students are in the building, they're in the first 3 rows. The high-pitched squeals are over here, and then the more grown men? Sure. Anyways, hey, good morning. My name is Daniel Mable. I serve here as the director of student ministries for our Beechwood campus, and so I'm just really glad you decided to be here. Good morning to you, everyone in the room, and good morning, AC students. Good morning, Athens Church. I'm really glad you decided to be here today because our prayer and our hope for you this morning has been that you would see stories like Ansley's and really catch a glimpse of everything that's happening about 60 yards that way. Familiar with this room, but not a lot of you are familiar with what's happening down there. And I hope that today just serves as like this encouraging message of that God is alive and well in Athens, Georgia, especially through these 6th through 12th graders. And we're hoping that that's a glimpse of what you're catching in here this morning, which leads us to why we're here this morning. And so we've been a part of this series called Climate Change for the past couple weeks. And what we've been doing is answering this question of what's it like to be on the other side of me? Really fun, really easy question. It's not, it's terrifying. But it's really fun because you get to go up to people and it feels like the hard part is standing in front of someone that knows you really well and saying, hey, what's it like to be on the other side of me? And you think that's the terrifying part until they have to answer. And so, over the past couple weeks, we've been discussing what do you do when you hear answers like you're anxious and you're angry and you're distracted, and what in the world are you supposed to do with all that? And so we've been going to the past couple weeks and answering and looking at what to do when you get a response that you didn't want to hear. But what we want to do today is I want to rephrase a little bit. I want to change the perspective. I'm not talking about changing the perspective. I'm giving you different answers that you could potentially hear. What I want to do is I want to change the perspective of the whole question. So we've been asking what's it like to be on the other side of me. Today, I want to ask and answer the question of what's it like to be on the other side of this generation of students. Like, what's it like to be on the other side of this generation of student? What's it like to be a teenager in 2024? And what makes this question really funny to me is you've been asking this for a very long time. You've been asking this question for years, except the thing about this question is that it doesn't usually come off as like a sense of curiosity. Like no one is asking this out of like a curious sense. You don't look at this generation of teenagers and step back and wonder, I wonder what it's like to be you. No, these don't come off as curiosity. This comes off as different statements like those meddling kids. Oh, this country is toast. If they're next, we're in big trouble. The other day, a couple weeks ago, I went to the Starbucks across from our street, and I stood in line, and in front of me were 2 middle school girls who were ordering venti pink drinks with 8 pumps of sweetener. It's sin in a cup, but nonetheless, there was an older gentleman behind me, and we're watching them order, and I've never met this man in my existence, and he leans forward into my ear, and he goes, this country is in big trouble. Why? It's lemonade with enough sugar to make a cake, but it's lemonade. You would have thought that these kids were robbing the place. But what I'm legitimately feeling is that this older gentleman was asking this question, but in a different statement. I genuinely believe that this older gentleman is just wondering what's it like to be on the other side of them. And what's it like to be them? Why are they ordering the way they order? Why do they act the way they act? Why do they do the things they do? What's it like to be on the other side of this generation of student? What are they longing for? If you're a parent in this room, you ask this question every 36 seconds. Why are you the way that you are? What are you looking for? Like, what burns your heart? Like, what's the longing of your soul? What is the reason you do any of this? You act the way you act. You say the things that you do. Why are you this way? What is it that you're looking for? And the good news is that there are groups of people who have been praying for your children since they were born, and they have been studying their every move to try and figure out if they could come up for an answer of what it is that they're looking for. And I really believe they found it, and I don't believe they found it because they're smart people. I believe they found it because I'm still a part of Gen Z, and I'm telling you that this has been the longing of my soul for a very, very long time. And they would tell you, and I would agree with you, that the longing, the sense of urgency, this deep desire in our hearts that we just don't know if we can explain is the desire for something real. Something real. Something authentic. Something that when I peel back the curtain, I can see it for what it really is. Not perfection, just real. Something I can stand on and not crumble before me every 5 seconds. Something I could build my life on. Something that can tell me who, what, and why I am. Something that can make sense of all these questions of why my school is the way my school is, why I have to look at the news and see why the world is the way the world is. Or something that can make sense of this sense of dislocation that I feel every 10 minutes of my life because I can't make sense of any of it. It's all this massive search and longing for something real. And so if this is the longing, if this is what every 12-year-old through 18-year-old and every 18-year-old through 90-year-old in the room is looking for, then where do you find this? Where do we find something real? Where do we find something that I can build my life on to tell me who, what, and why I am? And the thing about this generation is that we've all been asking this question for a long time. This generation is just a little bit more loud and expressive about their search. They're just not ashamed of it. And so where do you find this? The good news for you is this book. The scriptures have been answering questions that you've been wondering, including this one, for a very, very long time. And so what I'd love for you to do, what I'd love for us to go from now is I want to take you to Daniel 3. If you've got your Bible, you can flip there. If you've got your phone, you can click there. But we're going to go to Daniel 3. And I want to give you the story of 3 teenage boys who were faced with some of the same questions that you're faced with today. And in order to tell you how we got to Daniel 3, I want to tell you a little bit of the backstory. Because the story of Daniel 3 really starts in 2 Kings. Okay, you see, 2 Kings 24 ends with the Israelites are living together in a kingdom all in unison, and things just aren't going well, but then sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, and it's a little bit in shambles. And then 2 Kings 24 ends with Babylon invading. The Babylonians come in and take everything, and they take everyone. They strip these people from their culture, from everything they've ever known, from their society, from the way they grew up, to everything that they know about themselves, and take them out and send them to live in exile in Babylon. And 3 of these Israelites that were taken and sent to live in exile are 3 Israelite boys named Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And these boys are thrown into exile and stripped of everything they've ever known, from their families to their friends, to the way they were raised, to their names. Because now they're not Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They're Shadrach, they're Meshach, and they're Abednego. They're stripped of their names, the only thing they've really got to themselves, and given Babylonian names as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But where Daniel 3 picks up is that it's been a couple years. And these boys are now about 13, a modern day 8th grader, if I may. These 13-year-old boys who are living in Babylon, they found some favor through their friend Daniel with the king, and they're living under this horrible king named King Nebuchadnezzar. And in Daniel 3, the story picks up because King Nebuchadnezzar, I guess at some point, he's sitting with his council and he comes to a realization. He's like, hold on, we need a god. We should make one, which is an absurd statement to say. But he makes one, and so what he does is he creates a golden statue that says it's 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide. That's 90 feet, 30 yards high, and 9 feet wide. And so he creates this golden statue. And the funny part about it is most scholars believe it looks just like him. But he creates this golden statue because he says we need something to worship. So he gathers everyone that he knows. He gathers everyone that's in Babylon and puts them in a massive field of people. And he stands in the front with this massive statue. And he gives them really clear commandments. And here's what he says in verse 4. You are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipe, and every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into a burning, fiery furnace. So the instructions feel fairly simple. You're all going to stand in the field. You're going to stand. And when you hear the lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipes. When you hear a very loud noise, what you're all going to do is you're going to fall on your knees and you're going to worship said golden statue. But here's the thing about his instructions for him, is when he says worship this golden statue, he's talking about a level of worship that Scripture intends it to mean, but I don't think we understand. When he says that this statue will be revealed and you're going to hear a massive noise, you're going to bow down and you're going to worship, he's telling them that you will fall on your face and you will tell this golden hunk of metal that it is worthy, that it is good, that it's the creator of heaven and earth. You're going to switch verses and say, in the beginning, this thing made the heavens and the earth. You're going to fall on your knees and tell this statue it's worthy, it's good, that it loves you, and that it deserves all honor, all glory, all praise, all of your attention, all of your devotion, everything about you. This golden statue now has the authority to tell you who, why, and what you are. So when he says worship, he's not just saying you're going to stand there with your hands in your pockets and stare at it. He says you're going to tell it that it has the authority to define every inch of your being. And then it happens. It's like a Georgia football game. When they call a timeout, everybody sits down synchronized. And they all fall straight down to their knees. And you can imagine being in there and the person to your left is weeping and saying, thank you for making me. Thank you for providing for me. And the person to your right is in the same sense. Worthy are you. You're good. You know me. You know every inch of me. You deserve a glory and authority. It's you, golden statue. It's you. And Nebuchadnezzar is sitting there like in this weird sense of happiness of yes, this is it. All glory is essentially mine. And it says he starts looking through the plains of thousands of people, and at some point he just stops. And he's majorly confused because there's 3 13-year-olds who aren't bowing. He looks across this field of thousands of people, and he can hear them yelling and weeping and screaming and worshiping this golden idol. And in the middle are these 3 boys. And then there's someone who works for Nebuchadnezzar, the great snitch. He says, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree. And he tells him everything he said, that every man who hears the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipe, and every kind of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. Your instructions were fairly simple for 13-year-olds, and whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into a burning fiery furnace. And now, here's what he says. There are certain Jews who you've appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon. You appointed them. You know them. You found favor on them because of your friend Daniel. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, they pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. And now he's furious. He looks at his guards and goes, bring me those boys. They go out, they go through the people, they grab the 3 boys, and they bring them to King Nebuchadnezzar. And King Nebuchadnezzar stands up in front of him, and he's angry, and he repeats the instructions a 3rd time as if they didn't get it the first time. Maybe they're not bowing because the instructions were clear. No. He repeats the instructions to them, and I said, once you hear it, you bow. You're like, yeah, we know. And if you don't bow, I'm going to burn you alive. And they're like, yeah. And then he ends with this question. He said, okay, well then who is the God that will deliver you out of my hands? And now look at the response of these 3 13-year-old boys. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. Listen to this. But if not, if God for some reason chooses not to save us, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you've set up. Yeah, the God that you've introduced to me, the God you want me to give everything, you want us to bow and worship. No, we won't do that. So we have a God who we believe is capable of saving me. Look at the faith on this kid. But even if he doesn't, and he allows me to be in a fiery furnace and to burn alive, we still trust him, and I won't bow to your God. And here's my question. It doesn't matter if you're a parent in the room, you're a small group leader in the room, you're an adult in the room who lives in the world you live in today. Don't you want this? Is this not what you want from your kids? Is this not what you want from the generation that's coming up? Is this not the world you want to live in? A group of kids, a group of students, teenagers, that when faced with cultural standards and societal norms of, hey, I want you to bow to this, identify as this, believe this, drink this, eat this, smoke this, become this, say you're this, do this, all of the things can stand there and say, no, I don't think I will, because there's nothing real about this golden statue. A group of kids who can go up to it, knock on it, and say, this is a hunk of metal painted yellow. It's not real. There's no life in this. There's nothing authentic. And even if I were to fall on my face and tell this idol that I love it, it wouldn't hear me because it can't. And even if it could hear me, it can't respond. And even if it could respond, it doesn't know me because it didn't make me. So no, I won't bow. Is that not what you want? Is that not the world you want to exist in? Is this not the world you want for your kids? And it seems outrageous because you're listening to the story and it was like, obviously I wouldn't bow. Who's going to bow to a hunk of metal? But you bow to the one in your pocket every day. You give the one in your pocket the authority to tell you who you are, why you are, and what you are. It's just not as tall and shiny. It's just a whole lot more mischievous and silent. But is this not what you want? And the thing that's crazy about this story, and the thing that makes it really interesting, is that nowhere in the book of Daniel does it tell you why. Like, I really hope you're not listening to this story and thinking, man, those are some disciplined 13-year-olds. Have you met a disciplined 13-year-old? You can't get them out of bed for school. Nonetheless, not bow when their lives are on the line. It's not discipline. It's not something they're conjuring up in their own power of you're like, you know what, no, today won't bow. Not in the mood, not feeling it. It's just none of that's happening. What's crazy about the book of Daniel is there's no chapter, there's no verse in there that says, and thou didn't bow with because they are strongest. Like, it doesn't say anything. That gives you no reason as to why they didn't bow. And in order to figure out why, you go back to where this all started. See, because Daniel doesn't tell you why they didn't bow, why they didn't conform, why they didn't worship, but 2 Kings does. And before there was a fiery furnace, before there was Nebuchadnezzar, before there was Babylon invading, before they were alive, before they were kids, before there was any of this, there was 2 Kings. Before Nebuchadnezzar, there was a king named Josiah. And so in 2 Kings, you have the Israelites all living together, and 2 Kings 23 tells you that there's a king, and his name's Josiah. And while they're living all together, they find the temple. And if you read the Old Testament, the state of the temple is usually pretty resembling of the state of the Israelites, and it's in crumbles. I mean, it's in shambles. It's destroyed. And so Josiah finds it, and he tells his servant, he says, hey, go clean the place up. I don't know why it's destroyed. Why did we allow this? Go clean it up and go build it. And so he goes and he cleans it up, and his servant returns to him in 2 Kings 23, and he brings this book to him. He shows up and he says, Lord, we cleaned the place up. We were in the rubble, and we found this book. And he hands it to him. And Josiah grabs it and he reads it. And it's the law. It's the scriptures. And he reads it, and he says that he's in such distress that he rips off his robe, and he's just wondering, how did we get so far from this? Where have we gone? What have we done? The law has been in front of us for generations on generation. He says that these are the words of life. Where have we gone? And then this is what happens. In verse 1, he says that the king sent, and all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem were gathered to him. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and with him all the men of Judah. and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the prophets, all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by the pillar, and he made a covenant before the Lord. His covenant was to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes, and with all his heart and all his soul to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people joined in the covenant. He finds in he's such distress. He's like, I can't believe that I allowed us to walk from this. And so it says that he gathered everyone, both great, both small. He grabbed the 8-year-old, he grabbed the 80-year-old, and he grabbed everyone from the kingdom, the tribe of Judah in a room. And he reads it to them. He says, I'm going to establish my covenant back to the Lord. I'm returning. I'm coming back. Because these are the words of life. And I can't find it apart from this. This is where God has instructed me to live. And we've been searching and bowing to things for far too long. And he's given it to us. And he reestablishes his covenant. And everyone in the room does the same. Everyone, from child to senior, from Judah. You want to know what kingdom Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are from? Judah. And this is right before Babylon invades. So that means then that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's mom and dad are in the room when Josiah reestablishes this covenant. You want to know why a group of teenagers didn't bow? You want to know why a group of teenagers living in the world that they're living in, when everything around them is telling them to become this and just do this and you should be this, is because years before they were born, they had parents and adults and leaders and pastors and small group leaders in a room that said, we're going back to this because there's no life apart from this. And they're not bowing because they found it. And it's because they were in the room first. See, these aren't kids that are starting a revival. They're a product of it. These aren't kids who are starting a movement of God. They're a product of it. It's because they were a group of people that went first. They're a product of a group of people who had a deep, deep commitment to the words that they had found. Because what if the most important thing that's going to come out of Athens Church is them? What if the most important movement that's going to come out of this building are the middle schoolers and the teenagers and the elementary kids and the Wampa kids all the way down there? What if the most important movement that's going to come out of this building is them? And what if how you feel and you model about church and God and this word is how we are going to feel and model about this word? And it's going to take a deep level of commitment. But I believe that for you in this day and age, it's going to take a deep level of commitment to a couple things. I believe it's going to take a deep level of commitment to this book. A book older than you. It's been a lot longer. It's been here longer than you have. Knows a little bit more than you have. And I'm just wondering, because I've been convicted of the sense of, I think the reason I don't touch this book as much is because I don't really believe as much about the author as I think I do. If he is God, and he's good, and he's holy, and he's different, and he's not like me, and he wrote a book and put his very words inspired into it, and I believe that about him, I wouldn't put this down. It's going to take a deep commitment to this book because it has the words of life. And I feel a little bit like Peter. He has a conversation with Jesus in the New Testament where Jesus goes, hey, are you going to bail? Or are you going to stick around for this? And Peter's response to him is, Jesus, you have the words of life. Where else are we going to go? Where else am I going? My friends don't have the answer. My neighbor doesn't have the answer. My coworker, my boss, my phone, Facebook doesn't have the answer for this questions and this sense of dislocation that I'm feeling. I come to church every week because I'm longing for something and I'm not even aware of it, and nothing can make sense of it, but this book can. Because God has put not words but life in this book. And it's being with him, and it's communing with him, and it's the reality that every morning you wake up, you can look him in the eyes as he looks back into yours. Because he's not like the statue. He hears, and he feels, and he knows your name. And when you weep, he does. And when you speak, he hears, because he can, because he's the realest thing there has ever been and will ever be. He's the only one with the authority to tell you who you are, why you are, and what you are, and how you are. It is only him. So it'll take a deep level of commitment to this book. It'll take a deep level of commitment to this place. It'll take a deep level of commitment to this place. If what we're going to model about church for them is how they're going to feel about the model of church, and we're going to raise a generation that's going to not bow to the idols around them and not conform to everything and everyone around them, it's going to take a deep level of commitment to this place, more than the once a month type of Sunday, more than the Christmas and the Easters, more than any of that. It'll take a deeper commitment. It'll take you locking arms with people around you that are looking for the same things you are. I mean, showing up here on a Tuesday night and getting into a group of people who just want to lock arms with you, who don't have the answers to any of this anyways. They're a group of people around you who also have 8-year-olds that they're tired of, and they have 18-year-olds that they can't figure out. It's locking arms with this place. It's a deep commitment to this book and this place, and locking arms with the people around you. And at the same time, it's modeling what financial generosity looks like to your kids. It looks like giving to this place, like Charles said, so that environments can be created where we tell them that they're not going to find life apart from this. And then we show them how to read it. We show them how to do it. And that only happens because of your financial generosity. And so you create environments like the ones that I get to be a part of. And if I could sit and look you all in the eye one by one and tell you thank you, I would, but thank you. It's because of you that we get to create environments like Vertical Reality and 6th grade camp and The Mix and a campus deeper into the heart of Athens. It's because of you. It's your generosity. And you're modeling that for your kids because you're showing them that even something that feels as heart-wrenching and grabbing of your soul as your finances aren't Lord either. So it's a deep level commitment to this book, this place, and lastly, this generation. This book, this place, and this generation. This generation feels the fairly simple one to explain. It just looks like locking arms with them. It just looks like leading a group and opening up your home and saying, you've got questions. I don't know if I have answers, but I'll sit with you and I'll look at you and I'll listen to you and I'll make you feel safe. And this happens from pre-K to high school to college, everywhere. But it's locking arms with this generation and leading a group of them. And even today, after the services, this is something you're feeling like you're leading to. Our team will be around, and there'll be options and ways for you to do this. But it's going to take a deep level of commitment to this book, this place, this generation. And I firmly believe that a lot of times, a deep level of commitment sometimes looks like a reprioritization. I don't think you're horrible people. I just think we prioritize things in a million different ways. And I'm not standing up here as, guess what, guys? I have figured it out. I'm in shambles. And I'm a weak human, and I don't have any of this figured out. So reprioritization is like sitting with your family this summer and moving your schedule and moving your lives from being centered on sports to spirituality. And so a deep level of commitment to this book, this place, and this generation. I know a lot of you sit in this room and you're genuinely worried about your kids. And if that's not the position you're in, you're genuinely worried about the world that you exist in. If you learn to reprioritize, reorient your life around this book, this place, and this generation, you will find your meaning, you will find your purpose, and you will find life, and you will find it to the full. And you don't have to run anymore because it has been found. And I know a lot of you feel this level of discouragement, especially with your kids, and you look at this generation And a lot of you are just in this mood of like, I don't even know if I can anymore. Daniel, you don't know the things I've done. You don't know the way I feel like I've parented. I feel like they're too old and I'm too far gone and I've messed up far too much. I'm telling you that this book has the words of life, not just to show you how to live, but to bring you back to it. It wakes you up. And he heals and he restores the things that you never knew he could touch. So deep level of commitment to this book, this place, and this generation. And you will find life. And you will find it to the full. And you will be proud of the world that you get to exist in. So let me pray for you. Jesus, thank you for these friends. Thank you for these people. And Father, I don't stand up here as someone that says deep commitments to this book, this place, and this generation is this is it, and I'm doing it perfectly. And I'm standing up here as someone who has figured this out, and yay, be more like Daniel. That's not what I'm doing. No one in here needs good advice from Daniel. We need the Spirit of God to breathe life into us. We need you. I don't have this figured out. I'm weak. But I believe it's every morning I come to you and I tell you I'm weak and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm stuck and I'm scared and I'm lost and I don't know what to do. And it's not necessarily that I find the answers, but I find you, and that seems to be enough. And for the parent in the room that feels the discouragement of, man, my kids are going off to college, my kids are so grown, and I don't know if I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I feel strong enough for this. Father, I pray that you would remind them that that's good. It is in your weakness. It's in our weakness that we find strength. It's where we find you the strongest. So, Father, I pray for everyone who hears my voice, that they would know that there's a book that can model for them what it's like to know you. And there's a place that they can commit to, and there's a generation they can lock arms with and find life to the full. So, Jesus, we ask for all this in your name.